Hey everyone, I am Miss Hu, your physics teacher. In this video, I will be discussing the answers to a past year question and then we will compare the answers to the mark scheme. For some questions, the answers will be covered first so that I can explain the thought process of getting to the answers, as you will need to know how to get the answers and not just what the answers are. Then, based on the mark scheme, I'll explain why the marks are awarded as such. Question 10. Jupiter and the Earth are planets in our solar system. A. Describe the composition of Jupiter and the Earth. So when you have a question like this, obviously Jupiter and the Earth would have different compositions, because if they were the same, the question would only require you to write this once. So you need to recall that Jupiter is the 4 further planets from the Sun, while the Earth is among the 4 nearer planets to the Sun. So the 4 planets that are further away from the Sun are large and gaseous. So therefore, Jupiter is large and gaseous. However, you don't have to mention that it's large because the question only asks you for the composition. That means what the planet is made out of. So Jupiter is a gaseous planet. The 4 planets that are closer to the Sun are small and rocky, which means that the Earth is also small and rocky. Again, we don't have to mention the size, so you just need to mention that the Earth is a rocky planet. So now let's check the mark scheme. And you can see that yes, Jupiter is gaseous and Earth is rocky. So you get 2 marks for these answers. B. The gravitational field strength at the surface of the Earth is approximately 9.8 Newton per kilogram. The gravitational field strength at the surface of Jupiter is approximately 23 Newton per kilogram. 1. Define gravitational field strength. So this question already gives you a hint because they told you the values of the gravitational field strength on the surface of the Earth and Jupiter respectively. A lot of the terms in physics can be defined using the equation, and you can see that the question gives us the values with units for gravitational field strength. So obviously, the unit for gravitational field strength is Newton per kilogram. That means in terms of equation, it's force over mass. And that's exactly what gravitational field strength is. Gravitational field strength is the value of the force per unit mass. So if you check the mark scheme, you can see that in order to score the 2 full marks, you need to write the definition as force per unit mass, or you can even write the equation of G equals weight over mass in this form. So this will give us 2 marks. If let's say you wrote force on a mass, or if you wrote the equation of W equals mg instead, you'd only get 1 mark. Now some students may argue, isn't W equals mg and G equals weight over mass pretty much the same thing, just rearranged? Yes, but as you can see in the mark scheme, they told you that the 2 marks is only awarded if you wrote the equation in this form. And that's because this equation shows that G is the subject. So G is defined as weight divided by mass. If you wrote it in the form of W equals mg, you're writing W, which is the weight, as a subject instead of the gravitational field strength. That's why you won't be awarded the 2 marks. So how you write the answer is important, not just that the equation is the same thing in this case. And that's because the question is asking you for the definition and not asking you to do calculations. So just to point out to you, you are actually expected to know this definition. It is in the syllabus guide. As you can see, it's written here, define gravitational field strength as force per unit mass. Recall and use the equation G equals W over M. So you can either write it in words, force per unit mass, or you can write the equation in this form. 2. State one factor which causes the difference between the gravitational field strength at the surface of Jupiter and the gravitational field strength at the surface of the Earth. So in this case, you do need to know the factor, and the answer here is mass. So when we check the mark scheme, yes, mass is the correct answer, and it's the only answer that is accepted. So to prove this to you, let's just check the syllabus guide. And you can see in the syllabus guide here, you are expected to know that the strength of the gravitational field A at the surface of a planet depends on the mass of the planet, or B around a planet decreases as the distance from the planet increases. So you can see that the only factor for the strength of the gravitational field strength at the surface of a planet depends on the mass of the planet. So that's why for this question, mass is the answer. If you review again the question, that's what they're asking for, the gravitational field strength at the surface of the respective planets. C. State and explain the difference between the orbital speed of Jupiter and the orbital speed of the Earth. So if you look at the question has not given you any values here, which means that you are expected to know what the difference is between the orbital speed of these two planets. By now, you should also know that obviously Earth is a lot closer to the Sun compared to Jupiter. So the closer the planet is to the Sun, the smaller its radius of orbit. Therefore, it's going to travel faster around the Sun compared to a planet that's further away. It has a longer distance to travel. So orbital speed here refers to the speed at which the planet takes to make one complete orbit around the Sun. So therefore, the comparison is that the orbital speed of Jupiter is slower than the orbital speed of Earth. Explanation here means you need to write the reason for this. And obviously, the distance away from the Sun plays a significant role to influence the orbital speed. So to keep this simple, the explanation can be written in terms of a relationship where we're comparing the distance of the planets from the Sun. So we can say that the greater the distance of the planet from the Sun, the slower its orbital speed. Now, this is a 3-mark question, so let's review. Is this enough to get us 3 marks? So 1 mark is normally given for the statement, which means that 2 marks will be given for the explanation. If we read this explanation is actually not enough to get us 2 marks because it's a very straightforward reason, which means that this is only worth 1 mark. So quite possibly we'd have to write a second reason for this statement. So let's think, what other reason could there be to cause the orbital speed of the planet to be slower? One hint here is that the question told us about the gravitational field strength. Is it possible that the gravitational field strength could influence the orbital speed? Now, they may or may not be related, so sometimes you do have to be careful. There could be no relationship between an earlier part of the question and the last part. But in this case, it is an influence. The gravitational field strength we're referring to in this case is not that of the planet, but that of the Sun. Because if you can remember, the motion of a planet as it orbits around the Sun also depends on the gravitational field strength of the Sun. When there's a stronger gravitational field strength of the Sun acting on the planet, this gravitational potential energy can be converted into kinetic energy, meaning the greater the gravitational potential energy, the greater the kinetic energy. So if the planet is further away from the Sun, there is lesser gravitational field strength, which means also that the kinetic energy will be lower, therefore the orbital speed will be slower. So I'm going to add here that the gravitational field strength of the Sun is lesser on a planet that is further away. So we have to be sure to talk about the gravitational field strength of the Sun because we're not comparing the gravitational fields of the planets this time. We're comparing the gravitational field strength of the Sun on those planets. Now let's check the mark scheme. So yes, Jupiter is slower. So that's the statement that will give us 1 mark. That does not look like a tick. Let's try that again. So yes, that will give us 1 mark. And there are 2 marks awarded for the explanation. The first mark is awarded for the relationship between the speed and the distance of the planet. And the second mark is awarded for the gravitational field strength of the Sun. And that's how we can get 3 marks. So if you're wondering why are those 2 reasons for that question, let's review the syllabus guide. As you can see here, it's written, you need to know that the strength of the Sun's gravitational field decreases and that the orbital speeds of the planet decrease as the distance from the Sun increases. So you can see that for the statement number 9 here, this statement provides 2 answers for that question because it's related to the orbital speeds. So that's why those are the answers you're expected to write for that question. And that's how you answer question 10. If you found this video to be helpful, click like and subscribe. And do let me know how you have found this video to have helped you. To watch videos on other questions, check out the playlist on my YouTube channel or on my website, physicsrocks.com, to find the question that you are looking for. If you have any requests for a particular question, drop your request in the comments below, stating the year, month, variant, and question number. And if I haven't covered that question yet, I will do my best to come up with the explanation video as soon as possible. All the best for your examinations!